What day it is, y'all? Yeah, today is Monday. And we back at it again for another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. So come on in. This week, we'll be reading Love and Gospel Music. What's wrong with telling the damn truth? By your author, Mr. Timothy Blaine. Y'all head on over to Amazon.com and get your books. Download it on your Kindle or just order the paperback. Come on and support our authors, y'all. Love and gospel music. But is it really about love and gospel music? We over here reading, y'all. Make sure you comment, like, share, and subscribe to Almond Brown everywhere. Check the description box to get all the links to his book and also to Mr. Timothy Blaine's YouTube channel. We almost reading, y'all. Are you ready? It's that time. Shh. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. I am your girl, Miss Almond Brown 09, coming to you guys today with another read of Love and Gospel Music. What's wrong with telling the damn truth? By yours truly, Mr. Timothy Blaine. I hope you guys have had a wonderful Monday. I hope your weekend was wonderful. And then your Monday started out great, to the work week or whatnot. So I've had a wonderful and relaxed day. I can't complain at all. It was my day off. So I did absolutely nothing but press t-shirts for my job, for my business. That's all I did. But anyways, we're going to get into this book. I'm going to reiterate, let you guys know what happened last week. So we know we have been introduced to Mr. Dwayne Brown, no relation to me. Mr. Dwayne Brown, his brother Johnny, sister Sarah, his mama, and baby, that stepdaddy Buck, honey. We know that brother Johnny shot Buck in the head, and thank goodness Buck did not die. But we found out a whole lot of stuff that was going on with Johnny and why he did what he did. But y'all got to go back and listen to the first reading to be able to find out. Because I ain't going to tell y'all everything. Well, what's the point of me reading if I'm going to tell y'all everything? So y'all go back. This week we will be on chapter 3. Only chapter 3 because it's kind of long. So we'll be on chapter 3. And so we're going to get into it. Let's go. I hope you guys have ordered your books. If you have not, you still have time. All the links are in the description box below where you can go and get your book. Order it off Amazon.com. Get the hardback. Or either download it on your Kindle. If you don't have a Kindle, download the app. Everything is on the app. Child, you probably can find a husband when you... Let me shut up. Chapter 3. The Death of Benny. Oh, wait a minute. Disclaimer, there may be some cussing in this book. I am not sure yet. I don't want to say a heavy disclaimer, but it may be just a little small disclaimer. But nevertheless, there may be cussing and other stuff going on. I just wanted y'all to know in case y'all got y'all children in the room. Okay. October 3rd, 1975. Oh, Lord. Life is moving too fast for me right now. If you don't slow it down, I don't see how I'll make it through these monstrous times. No, that doesn't mean I have any intention of hurting myself, Father. I count it as a major blessing that my mind doesn't go to such a dark place. I only wish that the same were true for Benny. Benny was Reverend Nicholas's middle son and my only true friend. They found him hanging from a bridge over the freeway this morning. He was 17 years old. Oh, God, what a horrible day this is. What a miserable, awful, horrible day I have woken up to this morning. How could this have happened? Lord, and why? What did it have why did it have to happen? He was only a kid. Surely there was another way for this awful story to end. Of course, the whole truth hasn't come out yet. I wouldn't be surprised if weren't still investigators over at the site where they found him. But the bridge is only where the nightmare came to a head. A few of us know where it began. Of course, there's Terry Baxter and me, and I'd guess that all of Benny's family knows. How could they not with all of the yelling and fighting that's been going on over at the Nicholas's house for the past 3 weeks? I told him not to tell, Lord. You know how many times I pleaded, even begged him not to tell? I knew there would be trouble, but I never dreamed it would come to this. You're making way too big of a deal out of this, Dwayne, he said. Sure, my dad would be upset at first, but he'll come around. He's a good man, Dwayne. You don't know him like I do. But what if he doesn't come around, Benny? I said. What if he flips completely out on you? After it's been said, you can never take it back. And he'd never believe you, even if you tried. I could see he wasn't convinced. So I went on. And what if we're wrong, Benny? What if the church is right about this thing? What if we're really not different at all? How can you be so true or so sure that this is not just some teenage phase we're going through? Don't be ridiculous, Dwayne. Teenagers don't just wake up one morning and decide that they want to stick their tongue down their homeboy's throat. I still say that it's way too soon to be calling yourself that, much less telling your father, the pastor, that is what you are. You haven't even done anything yet. That's not the point, he screamed. Then what exactly is the point? The point is that I'm not going to sit up in that church another day and listen to my father demonize and tear down gay people whenever the mood strikes him. We are human beings, Dwayne, and we deserve to be respected. Don't you see that, buddy? Can you imagine what this constant badgering and belittling must be doing to our insides? Well, I said sheepishly, you know what the Bible says. Yes, I do know what the Bible says, he exploded. I was born with my face in that Bible. Why don't you do yourself a favor, Dwayne Brown, and actually read it for yourself? Why don't you try to take account the context in which it was written? You don't just take any ancient group of books that's thousands of years old, that's been translated multiple times by multiple groups of heterosexual people for heterosexual people and read it like it's a recipe you got out of this morning's newspaper. I do read the Bible, Benny. I wish you wouldn't attack my faith just because you're having problems with your father or because the word says something that you don't want to hear. What I want to hear is the damn truth, he yelled, almost losing his voice now. What is the truth, Benny? The truth is that the earth is round and not flat. The truth is that rape and murder are wrong. And for the purpose of this conversation, my brainwashed friend, the truth is that while it is abundantly clear that the overwhelming majority of the humans that walk this planet are heterosexual, there are also a huge number of us that simply are not. I hated it when Benny would start up with his big words and long sentences. I don't know if you made Benny smarter than me, Lord, but he sure read a lot and thought about things a lot more deeply than I do. I think that was part of the problem with Benny. He just thought too much about everything. Benny actually believed that most of the problems of the world wouldn't be problems at all if people would come together and tell each other their truths. As if racism, classism, homophobia, and all other forms of hatred would just disappear if we could make each other see that it was wrong. My poor friend. Maybe Benny was smart with the books, and I have to admit that a lot of his arguments about the way people and things should be did make a lot of sense. But when it came to actual people, my friend Benny was very naive. Even now, as I sit here trying to sort out all this that happened in the last few weeks, I still can't see how Benny could have thought anything good would come out of telling Reverend Nicholas that he was gay. As if the Reverend, with all that he has invested in his religious redirect, was going to suddenly halt his assault on homosexuality because his son was gay. What a joke. What a horrible, pathetic, demonic joke this whole thing has been. The residents of hell must have dreamed this one up. How could Benny have been so smart and yet so incredibly dumb at the same time? If Reverend Nicholas was going to try and change anything, it was going to be him. I know that I should be overcome with grief and in tears right now, Lord. It's not like I have a lot of friends, but in truth, the only emotion that overwhelms me right now is anger. I'm so angry right now. I feel like if anyone says even one wrong word to me, I'll smash my face right through this window over my desk. Of course I'm angry with Nicholas. God only knows what went on in that house last night and in all of the nights leading up to this last night. I saw Benny in the cafeteria yesterday about noon. He seemed like he was holding up pretty good to me. Of course I knew that he had been going through hell at home since the night that he told his parents. Maybe I was only kidding myself by choosing to believe that things were starting to calm down. To tell you the truth, Lord, Benny had said very little about what was going on. In fact, every time I saw him, he seemed to want to talk about it less and less. Oh, God. I should have known that there was something wrong with him. They show us the movies about teenage suicide every year in the gym. Why didn't I see this coming? Why didn't I ask more questions? Why didn't I do something? I'm also mad at my school, and especially my church. Where was Benny supposed to get help in dealing with something like this? As if just being a teenager wasn't already hard enough. He tried talking to his parents about it. Obviously, that was a great, big, beautiful success. Of course, with Benny's father being the pastor, he wasn't likely to talk to anyone there. But I can't help to think that if there was some ministry, some counseling center, something somewhere for people like us, then maybe this kind of horror wouldn't have happened. Oh, God. Why could my friend have just accepted that this is a heterosexual world we were born into? All he had to do was wait until we were old enough to leave it. Just a few more months, and me, Benny, and Terry Baxter would have been off to see the wizard. In fact, that was the plan. And that brings me to the core of what overwhelms me. God, I am so irrationally angry with that dead kid. I want to pull Benny off of that stretcher down at the morgue and beat the hell out of him. Oh, God, please help me to defeat this evil. I shouldn't be feeling this way. He was my best friend and closest ally. And yet, I do feel this way. Benny stirred up this hell. We were supposed to be in this together. We were supposed to wait. He broke the damn covenant. Journal entry 648. October 4th, 1975. My Lord, last night was really rough. My mother heard the glass break after I screamed and slammed both of my fists through my glass-topped desk. We spent about 5 hours in the emergency room. The doctor said that I should consider myself lucky that only 3 of the cuts were deep enough to require stitches. I think it was even luckier that all of the cuts wound up on my palms and fingers and nowhere near my wrist. Otherwise, they'd all be thinking that I tried to off myself too. Oh, God, what strange creatures have you created? I'm talking about the situation with my mother, of course. I just don't see how that woman could find her son bleeding from both hands, furniture smashed all to hell, sobbing uncontrollably, and never even ask what happened. It's like she doesn't want to know what happened. Benny and me had a theory about this. Actually, it's one of the few theories that we shared. We both thought about that as a rule, mothers know. They may not want to know, and many would deny that they know, and especially when they knew up until the day that they were planted in the ground. But I can't help but to think that most of them know, Lord. How could a mother not know about her own child? Gay people are different in more ways than just sex. Of course, fathers are different, or so I hear. But since I have practically no experience in that area, I'll just keep those ill-informed opinions to myself. So, somewhere in my mother's subconscious brain, she probably figures that Benny and me were having some kind of nasty love affair that went terribly wrong. And that's why he killed himself. And that's why my hands are all cut up. Strange that she can just go back to frying chicken and clean the house like nothing at all has happened. Stranger still, and even a little sick, I suspect, is that my mother has said absolutely nothing about the fact that yesterday morning my best friend was found hanging from a rope tied to a bridge. This morning's newspaper said that there was a sleeping bag and a trash bag full of clothes in the victim's size found under the bridge near where the body was found. Nicholas must have thrown them out of the house. Oh God, how long had Benny been sleeping under that bridge? Why didn't he tell me what was going on? We could have figured something out. Why couldn't he trust me? I thought that Benny was my best friend, but it looks like I didn't really know him at all. As I was lying on that gurney in the ER last night, Lord, it occurred to me that up until yesterday and the news of this horrible tragedy, I have said absolutely nothing in my writings about the possibility that I am homosexual. You know my heart, Lord, and you know I have no delusions that I can somehow keep this from you. How could you know the number of the hairs on my head and not know this? You made me, Father, and you know all that there is to know about me. I accept that as a fact, and yet I still have a hard time talking about this, especially with you. It's like if I put it down on paper and address it to you, that will somehow make it official. I'm just not ready to call myself that yet, Lord, even though I know the truth. There's so much of that I don't understand about this thing. I know what the church says, and I know what the text says, but everything in me tells me that we've got this whole thing wrong. Oh God, how I wish my friend hadn't done this awful thing. We were supposed to be here for each other and help each other figure this thing out. It's not like this is the kind of thing you can talk about with a lot of people. There was a covenant, a blood covenant taken by Benny, Terry Baxter, and me in your presence. Benny cut his finger first, then Terry Baxter, and then me. Then we combined our blood into one tiny puddle. First, I crossed Terry and Benny's foreheads in the covenant blood, and then Benny did me. Then we took an oath together. We agreed that none of us would have either heterosexual or homosexual sex until our 20th birthday. We didn't want it to be on our 18th or 21st because those are both dates of legal maturity. Our covenant was supposed to be separate and unique to us. We agreed that until we would spend our time in study and contemplation. But for every book or chapter that we read on the subject of homosexuality by a heterosexual author, we would also read an equal amount by a homosexual author. This was Benny's idea, of course, and boy was he right on the money with this one. The difference in perspective was astonishing. Benny was such a brilliant kid, Lord. I can't help but wonder what all he could have accomplished for all of us had he lived. The rest of the agreements contained within the covenant were as follows. No one would be considering themselves a homosexual just yet, no matter how they felt on the inside. No one would confess their homosexual feelings to anyone outside of the group. And if anyone accused any of us of being a homosexual, we would always deny it. We figured that as long as we hadn't actually done anything, we wouldn't be lying. But now Benny is dead, and our blood covenant means nothing. Terry Baxter and me are not likely to be hanging out with each other. I barely know him. We were both Benny's friends. As far as I know, all Terry Baxter and me had in common with Benny, all we had in common was Benny. Oh, and that other thing. We're both queers. I have a feeling that things are going to get really messy down at the church. Everybody knew that Benny and me were good friends. We both had been church boys since we could walk. And I know all those old ladies as well as I know myself, Lord. And there ain't no way any of them have been able to put down their telephone since yesterday. Of course, something like this doesn't qualify as gossip, and they probably figure that everybody has a right to know what happened. Well, I just hope that they get their information from somewhere else. I don't know all that much anyway. And what do I know? I think that all concerned would be much better off if I kept it to myself. I have to admit that even though I blame Reverend Nicholas for what happened with Benny, I still feel some compassion for him. How could he have known that his son was capable of something like this? I don't think it was just by chance that Benny chose to hang himself from the freeway overpass right at the beginning of morning rush hour either. He was making a final statement. I believe in my heart, Lord, that Benny wanted to hurt his father as much as his father had hurt him. We'll probably never know if there was a note or final communication with his family, but the newspaper article said that there was no note found at the scene. I also have some compassion for Reverend Nicholas because I know what a terrible loss he has suffered. The Reverend and Benny were not like my mother and me, or God forbid, my father and me. No, Reverend Nicholas and Benny were extremely close. Benny worshipped his father and hung onto his every word. And that's why his father's condemnation and hard stance against homosexuality was so piercing to him. It seems like in the past few months, Reverend Nicholas has been on a full out assault against gay people. Of course, there's always been a certain amount of that kind of talk around the church, but lately, it's been showing up in practically every one of his sermons. Oh, Lord. This is one of those things, those times when I wish you can step down out of heaven for just a moment and speak directly to me. If we could just talk the way humans talk, I would ask if what I had been witnessing these past few months wasn't a family tragedy being played out publicly. I'd ask you if Reverend Nicholas was preaching his exaggerated condemnation to the congregation these past few months, or was he preaching it to his son? Well, it looks like I have to wrap it up for now, Father. I hear voices upstairs. It sounds like my grandma and mother talking. But wait a minute. There's somebody else down there. I know that voice. Oh, God. It's Reverend Nicholas. And scene. We'll be right back to finish our chapter 3 of Love and Gospel Music. What's wrong with telling the damn truth? Don't go nowhere. Guess what day it is, y'all? Yeah, today is Monday. And we back at it again for another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. So come on in. This week, we'll be reading Love and Gospel Music. What's wrong with telling the damn truth? By your author, Mr. Timothy Blaine. Y'all head on over to Amazon.com and get your books. Download it on your Kindle or just order the paperback. Come on and support our authors, y'all. Love and Gospel Music. But is it really about love and gospel music? We over here reading, y'all. Make sure you comment, like, share, and subscribe to Almond Brown everywhere. Check the description box to get all the links to his book and also to Mr. Timothy Blaine's YouTube channel. We almost reading, y'all. Are you ready? It's that time. Shh. child, we are back. We are back, and we are going to continue our read of love and gospel music, honey. We're still on the on chapter 3, the death of Benny. But we're going to see, I guess, what Reverend Nicholas had to say. hmm Journal entry number 649, October 4th, 1975. Later that night. How you must hate me. It was the first thing he said to me. My mother and grandmother had left us alone together in my room at his request. I don't hate you, Pastor. I don't know you well enough to hate you. My grandma always told me that if you're going to say that you hate somebody, you should at least know that person first. You've been coming to my church since you were a baby, Dwayne. I've been coming to the house of God since I was a baby. I never thought of it as your church. But yes, I have been listening to you preach my entire life. That doesn't mean that I know you. You are a smart boy, Dwayne. I can see that. It makes sense that you and my son would be such good friends. Benny was very smart, sir. And yes, we were very good friends. That's why I've come here, son, he said. No one in my family knows that I'm here right now. I snuck out through the back of the house. My house has been full of well-meaning family and loved ones since this nightmare began. I felt that if I didn't get out of there at least for a little bit, my head would explode off of its foundation. Your grandmother was kind enough to bring me here to see you. He paused and took a long look around the room. I seemed to see all of my things as if for the first time through his eyes. Benny told me that you were his best friend, he continued. Son, did he say anything? Anything at all to you about all of this? What do you want from me, Reverend Nicholas? Do you want to know if I knew that Benny had told you that he was gay and that you had thrown him out of your house? That's not true. Who told you that? He said, raising his voice a little. Is that what Benny told you? That I had thrown him out of our home? Isn't that what happened? No, that's not what happened. Yes, he had come into my study 3 weeks ago and told me about what's been going on between him and that other boy. And yes, I do admit that I didn't like what I was hearing. I didn't like it one bit. But I never... What other boy? I asked, my throat tightening. That other boy from the choir. The one that the two of you were always with. Now don't tell me, young man, that you didn't know that they were calling themselves lovers, whatever the hell that means. Terry something. What was his name? Terry Baxter, I said. I needed to sit down. I didn't feel so good. Well, whatever his name is, Benny said that the two of them were more than just friends and that it was time for me to start dealing with the truth. That's what he called it, the truth. Reverend Nicholas, with all due respect, I know that you're in indescribable amount of emotional pain and grief right now. But if you're about to slip into some long monologue about the evils of homosexuality, I have to tell you from the very bottom of my heart that I don't want to hear it. In fact, if that is where this is going, I'd like for you to leave. I couldn't believe it, Lord. I had just told the pastor of my church and the father of a dead teenager to get out my house. And I wasn't kidding around. My next move would have been to open the door and call for my mother and grandmother. Thankfully, things didn't go that far. The pastor apologized for upsetting me and asked if we could talk just a little more before he had to get back to his family where he belonged. I didn't throw him out of the house, Dwayne, he said. I came home from Bible study last Wednesday night to find that Benny had left. He'd taken what he could have before, then an armful of clothes from his closet and left. My God, it's hard to believe that was only 5 days ago. It seems like weeks. In spite of what you and many other people may be thinking right now, I love my son very much. I would never have done that to him. In fact, truth be told, I don't think that any of the members of my family were as shocked as we put on. This thing had been boiling up to its rim for about the last year. But behind closed doors, my wife and I had been discussing Benny and the possibility that he wasn't heterosexual for years. I'm sorry, son. I still have a hard time saying the word when it involves a member of my family. But we knew that he was different. Then why all the condemnation? All the badger from the pulpit, Pastor? If you knew that Benny was different, that we are different, then what is the point in persecuting us for it? I've never understood what the point is. Yes, I did know about you too, son. Benny told me that the two of you had been trying to figure this thing out on your own. He had a great deal of respect for you, Dwayne. Perhaps that's why I have shown up at your doorstep on this God-forsaken night. He paused and stared at me hard. They're right when they call it homophobia, he said. Phobia. Are you familiar with that Latin word, son? It means fear, to be afraid of something. I was still angry then, but I was listening, waiting for him to continue. Dwayne, he said, I'm going to tell you a little story that I've never shared with anybody. And then I really do have to get back to my family. When I was 12 years old, there was a new family that moved onto our block a few houses down from us. The family had two girls and a boy about my age. Bobby Jacobs was his name, and Bobby and I became instant best friends. I was a popular kid, son, and I had a lot of friends, but none like Bobby Jacobs. We did everything together that could be done together. Basketball, football, baseball. We even did study hall and rarely missed having lunch together. Pretty normal stuff for 12-year-old boys. But very early on, I realized there was something strange about the way I felt about Bobby Jacobs. It was like I liked him too much. Of course, I never told anybody about these feelings, especially him. Way back then, son, we all knew that the very worst thing in the world was to be a faggot. I'm sorry, Dwayne. I understand what a derogatory word that is, but I'm just trying to make a point. Everybody wants to blame the church for the way the world perceives homosexuality, but this was many years before I had religion. I didn't know anything about the Bible or anything written in it. Yet, I knew that if I ever let anybody know that I was having these kind of feelings for another boy, at the very least, I would get beat up and maybe either have to find another school. No need to apologize yet, Reverend Nicholas. I said, so far all I hear is a man telling the truth. Things haven't changed as much as you might think. Go on with your story. He turned away and looked out the window. One Friday night, I was staying over at Bobby Jacobs' house. We had been playing one-on-one basketball until the sun went down. And when we got back to his room, we started wrestling on his bedroom floor. That's how it started. I had Bobby in a scissor lock around his neck. And then suddenly he was grabbing frantically at my legs and telling me to let go. He wasn't kidding around, Dwayne. He was having a hard time breathing. Now, of course, I wasn't trying to hurt him. He was my best friend. But I couldn't let him go. Because if I had to let go right then, son, Bobby Jacobs would have seen my very first erection. He was still looking out the window. I was only 12 years old, Dwayne. I didn't understand what had happened on Bobby Jacobs' bedroom floor, and I didn't understand the strange feelings that I had been having for him. I only knew that I wanted no part of it. After the incident, I started backing away from him and our friendship. I didn't feel comfortable around him anymore. Of course, this was right at the beginning of my puberty, and in short order, my nature started kicking in. I was so relieved to discover that I really did like girls. I liked them a great deal. And I'll just go ahead and spit out the truth, young man, since you said that I should do that. I hated homosexuals. And perhaps even more unfairly, I absolutely despised Bobby Jacobs. At least at the time, it felt like I hated him. I was afraid of the way he had made me feel. I didn't ever want to feel that way again, son. We got in many fights before high school was out. And the poor guy, he never even knew what it was all about. I guess that makes me a textbook homophobic. If I could have beat up homosexuality as well, believe me, I would have. Maybe that's what you've been doing from the pulpit all these years, Reverend, I said. Yes, you are a very bright boy, Dwayne Brown. Wise beyond your years. Whatever happened to him, Pastor? Bobby Jacobs, I mean. Did you ever see him again? Sure. Neither one of us ever left town. He sells men's suits down at the mall. Believe it or not, son, I'm pretty sure that Bobby Jacobs is gay. Can you believe it? Here I almost choked the dude out so he wouldn't see my 12-year-old erection. And all along, he probably would have thought it was a good thing. So what's going to happen now, Pastor? I'm not sure what's going to happen now, son. This thing could tear my family apart. My wife had been begging me to back off our son and accept him for who he apparently was. To tell you the truth, the only reason that I've allowed all of these people to be hanging around my house at this troubling and deeply private time of grief is that I'm afraid to be left alone with her. I just kept thinking that if I could make all of the young people in my congregation feel the same way I did about homosexuality, they would turn away from it. The way you did? Yes, son, the way I did, he said. Now that you heard all this, Dwayne, am I such a monster? Am I a monster for feeling this way? You're not a monster, Pastor. No one is suggesting that you're a monster, I said. But you are wrong. And I think that you're giving yourself way too much credit. You didn't will yourself to be a heterosexual. And your hatred of homosexuality doesn't make you more heterosexual. I'm not a psychiatrist, Pastor. I'm just a 17-year-old kid in mourning over the senseless loss of my friend. Just another 17-year-old kid. I haven't lived long enough yet to delude myself into thinking that I have all of the answers. But even I can see that your puberty came up on you suddenly and was traumatic. I got my first erection because the bathwater was too hot. My point is that I could just as easily have happened. It could have easily have happened rubbing up against that basketball. What you have just shared with me, Pastor, has to be about the most sincere and honest confession that I've ever heard. I think that Benny was blessed. First, to have a father at all, and then to have one capable of this level of honesty. I only wish that the two of you could have. I also think that it's admirable, Pastor, that you didn't hide out behind 2 or 3 passages from the Bible to make your point or justify your feelings, or as you so appropriately put it, your phobia. We both know who I should have had this conversation with, Dwayne, he said. Oh, God, now it's too late. Now I've killed him. I killed my boy. Then the Reverend broke out in a wild, uncontrollable tears, deep guttural sounds, all the while gasping for breath and calling for your help, Lord. Bang, bang, bang. My grandmother was in the room. She took the Reverend in her arms, and the two of them sat down on my bed, rocking and sobbing for what seemed like forever. All 3 of us were in torrents and waves of uncontrollable tears. Tears for Benny and the loss of such an unlived life, and tears for Reverend Nicholas and his indescribable pain, grief, and guilt. My mother wasn't crying. She was just standing there in the doorway looking like reality was trying unsuccessfully to bore a hole through her forehead. I need to go home now, he said at last, when his sobbing became subdued. Sister Jones, please take me back home to my family now. Oh, Benny Nicholas, how could you have done this? I said it to my pillow as I drifted off to sleep. And we'll keep journal entry 650. Y'all thought it was over. October 5th, 1975. Bless your father. Of course, Grandma was back at our house this morning. She had convinced my mother that it was best if she kept me out of school a couple of more days. I was relieved about not having to go right back to school, But I sure didn't want to spend that time going over this whole thing again with my grandmother. For one thing, I didn't know how much Reverend Nicholas had already told her. You know how I feel about my grandma, Lord. I don't have a problem talking to her about anything, anything that is except for gay. I was just not ready to have that conversation with my grandmother yet. How was I going to discuss what happened with Benny without it coming up? Benny Nicholas was forcing my hand from the grave. Actually, he's not even in the grave yet. He's at the funeral home. We've still got a couple of more days before the funeral. Grandma was just, she was not being nosy. She loves the pastor and his family as much as she loves us, her own family. My grandmother was one of the original members. She was there when the first Reverend Nicholas started the church. This thing that Benny had done was having an effect on a whole lot of people. Well, baby, she said, it looks like the horrors of this world have landed on our doorstep. It's been rough, Grandma. How's the pastor? He's taking it hard, baby. First Lady is even worse shape. They may have to admit her to the hospital for a few days. I'm so sorry that all of this happened, Grandma. I just wish there was something I could do to make things better. What could you do to make this situation even better, Dwayne? What could anybody say or do to make this situation even a little better? This is one of those times when any of us can do is trust and lean on him. Only God can calm these troubled waters, baby. He was my best friend, Grandma, I said, tears starting at the corners of my eyes again. I know, baby, and such a good boy. I can't help but wonder what went so horribly wrong. Why would a boy like Benny Nicholas, from a good home, who was doing so well in school, do something like this? How could he do this to his family? Is that the most important thing, Grandma? What Benny has done to his family? No, of course not, son. I have to admit that I'm struggling for the right words here, Dwayne. This is the first time something like this has happened to anyone that I've known personally. It's different when you're a parent yourself, Dwayne. We tend to see things from a parent's perspective. Why, if anything like this ever happened to any one of my... How are you doing, baby? This has to be overwhelming you. I know what close friends you and Benny were. I've been having a hard time, Grandma. But it's not about me. And at least I'm still alive. At least I still have a chance to work out my problems. I just don't see how Benny could have thrown in the towel so soon. He was only 17 years old. Great are the wonders of this world. Baby, there are just some things in this life that we will never understand. Suddenly, my grandma had me by both of my shoulders. Dwayne, I want you to hear me now like you've never heard me before. I don't know what was going on with that young man, but if there was ever anything at all, that you need to get off your chest, I want you to come to me. I don't care what the problem or situation is, baby. You just come and ring my doorbell anytime, day or night. I know all of my children, Dwayne, and believe me, I know my daughter. Your mother loves you, baby. Lord knows she loves all of her children. But there are just some things about life that your mother has a hard time dealing with. It breaks my heart to think of you over here all by yourself. First your daddy, then your brother Johnny, and now your best friend. Lord, it just seems like too much loss for a boy your age. Daddy and Johnny are not dead, Grandma. Maybe Johnny will come back to Ohio someday, and I'll see my father again. I know you will, son. I just wish he'd move back to town. What's going on with your brother? He never writes anymore? Johnny never was big on writing, I said. He says that he won't be able to come back for the funeral, but he sent me $100 to get a black suit. $100? Things must be going well out on your aunt and uncle's farm. Farm? I exclaimed. Grandma, Johnny has been living out in California for over a year now. Have you been missing your medication? I don't take that kind of medication, Dwayne. Maybe somebody did mention that he was living out there. It's just so hard to keep up. Do you realize that I've become a grandmother 2 more times this year alone? Well, he must have a pretty good job. He's been sending me money since he got there. How much money? She said, looking a little concerned. Usually a $100 bill, but for my birthday, he sent me two. $200? She yelled. Does that fool have a telephone out there? Grandma, what's the matter? Yes, Johnny has a telephone. As a matter of fact, he has 2 phone numbers. He says that if you want to call him, you have to let the phone ring one time, then hang up, and then call him right back. Lord have mercy, she said, gathering up her things. Boy, I've got to get out of here. You have your mama call me the moment she walked through that door. And scene. That is chapter 4 or chapter 3, I'm sorry, of Love and Gospel Music, honey. What is wrong with telling the damn truth by Mr. Timothy Blaine? Baby, so we see that Dwayne and his best friend and his best friend's friend had come into a pact that they're all three were gay and they were going to hold it all in together until their 20th birthday. They didn't want to tell nobody. I'm going to drop the link for anybody that wants to come up while we talk and have a conversation. And you have to excuse, honey, if you hear something tiptoeing, walking around, baby. I told y'all my neighbors walk around with the weight of the world on their shoulders and it tends to come through their feet. Okay? I don't want to get up here and be ghetto and bam on the ceiling, but I will do it if I need to. But yes, that chapter has really... It really touched me because it's like, a lot of people are still going through things like that to this day, not being able to tell their loved ones whatever type of lifestyle that they may be in, regardless if it's homosexuality, if they selling drugs, if they depressed, if they anything other than what somebody may consider regular, then they're afraid to tell people. I see you back there, Mr. Tim. Let me get my headphones. So we have now the author of this book about to come up here, honey. We're going to have us a good old conversation. Oh, Lord, did I tear up my headphones? I think I did. Do Jesus. Hold on to your love. Hello, Mr. Tim.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great. Thank you for reading. It's
Absolutely.
Great. I haven't picked that big book up in like 5 or 6 years.
Really?
Yeah, I remember the story. That book has got so much. I mean, it touches reality so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all, I'm Dwayne.
I figured.
My mother is my mother. The mother, the character, kind of stoic kind of character, is my mother. The grandmother is my real grandmother. And Johnny, I made him up completely because I have 2 sisters. And in the book, I have a brother and a sister, right?
Right.
The situation with Benny never happened. So most of it's fiction, and it's also mixed with reality.
So your reality of being Dwayne was having to... Well, no, you said Benny was made up. So was there anybody that you had to go to or that you had in your life that you can talk to
about? It
about?
didn't happen that way at all for me. I stayed in the closet, but I just imagined it.
How old were you when you came out the closet?
I didn't. I left the very next chapter. Dwayne leaves and he goes to L.A. I left it at 19. I think he's 18, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from
he's
Indiana.
17 now.
He's 17. Okay, I think by 18 he goes to L.A. and that's when the story kind of takes off and it becomes all fiction at that point.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so what was your first time, I guess, when you did come out of the closet? How did you tell your mother? Or was it, like you said in the book, mothers always know?
She knew. She won't say it even today, but she had to know. But yeah, I left at 19. And so I was in, first I made it to Vegas. Car broke down, long story. Then I ended up back in Los Angeles. I was still 19 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And so after a year, my sister was getting married. So I had to go back to Indianapolis for this marriage. When I came back, my mother started saying things. She would say things like, Tim, it looks like somebody been in my closet. You don't know anything about my dresses, do you? Right. At one time, I was going to the store, and she could see out of her kitchen window me walking to the store, right? And when I came back into the store with the groceries or whatever I was with to pick up, she says, "Oh, so when you start switching your ass?" So that's the way it was with us. I would never actually came out to her. She kept pressing and pressing to eventually I confess. Similar to the way Johnny in the last chapter, eventually he wouldn't say that he was in a gang, but his mother kept pressing and pressing because she knew what the truth was. That's the way it was with us. But almost immediately I left and went to California, and I've probably only been to Indiana 4 times in the last 45 years.
Wow. So she really didn't have time to process it with you being there with her.
Right. I didn't with any of my family. I'm from a big family. I don't know what the hell they thought. I never asked them.
Really? So you don't care? Like, you don't want to know still to this day?
They know. Oh, they all know.
I mean, you don't want to know like how they felt, I guess, at the time.
I don't care. I don't care nothing about that, huh?
Yeah,
we're so over it now. I mean, it's been 40 years.
Right.
So, but my grandmother, I was very close to my grandmother,
and
her character is the same character. She's consistent all the way through the book as well.
Okay, so everything that your grandmother does in the book is the way that she really is in
where she would have been, right?
What
she would have said and things like that, right?
So did she know that you were gay back then?
But when I came back, my mother and them, I mean, they're all women, right? None of them had no husbands. So they were always on the phone, right? Gossiping. So yes, the word was going around. But she didn't confront me. Because when they figured it out, I immediately got back to LA. Right. So they never experienced me being there and being gay. They only knew me as being a heterosexual kid, a boy. And I think she probably suspected too. There was always hints and things like that,
So looking back now, with you going there and then leaving right away after she kind of suspected and was throwing little stuff out, do you think you was running away from having to actually come out and verbalize it to her?
I don't think I gave a shit. I'm just be honest. I just didn't care that much because I was so excited about coming out, about being gay. We're all in the closet initially. Because as children, we're not out. I mean, here in California, people are out. They're out at 13, 14 years old. But there, it was just so exciting for me. I just wanted to get back to LA and get back to starting this new life kind of thing.
But I think nowadays, a lot of people, when I graduated high school back in 2003, so it seemed like as soon as I graduated and I left home, and then it's like word traveled fast that a lot of the 6th and 7th graders at the middle school, were all like coming out. They were all like, "Oh, we're all gay." They were all like, they got in trouble at school because they would be hugging and kissing and everything at school. So it's like, and I moved away from home. Like I moved 3 hours away from home. So I was still getting information. I'm like, so it's crazy that you tell people to live their life, but then when they come out to live their life, then you bash them for living their life. So it's either you want the people to come out and be who they are, or you just want them to stay hidden. But then when they do things to themselves like Benny did, now you questioning, why didn't I know? Or why didn't they tell me? So it's like it's a double-edged sword almost when it comes to stuff like this. Even people that are on drugs, addictions, or anything like that too. So it's not just homosexuality, it's addictions all across the board, depression all across the board. We tell people to come out and let somebody know that you're depressed or anything like that. But when you come out, it says, "Oh, well, go pray about it." Right. Go pray it away. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, "How can I help you?" or anything like that, it is just like, well, go get fixed. Or just pray about it and let it go away.
Hopefully things are getting better now. But that was in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
So you were actually in school in 2000s?
Yeah, I graduated high school in 2003.
Oh, wow. Listen, I keep forgetting how old I am, honey.
I'm 36. I just turned 36.
Right. So I'm 30 years older than you.
Yes.
27 years older than you. Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But
I guess you live that whole fantasy kind of thing, and then the book picks up the pace a lot when he arrives in Los Angeles.
Yeah, but what about Buck? Was that
No,
really your
no,
husband?
Buck's gone. Buck, he got his lesson.
But was
You
he
just said he
was
shot him in the head. He didn't shoot him in the head. He just beat him in the head.
boy, I
With
thought
that,
the gun went off. I thought she said he
no,
shot him in the head.
no. He pistol whipped him with the gun, and then the
And then
mother,
she hit it.
and she hit it right and pretended she swapped it out with the bank like she had actually, because Buck wouldn't know what the hell hit him. He was getting hit
Right.
so much, you know. But that
But
bank was actually real too, because my sister threw a cast iron bank and hit me in the head when we were like 6 years old. A lot of things found their way into the fiction.
so was Buck really a character that was real in your life with your mom?
Oh yeah, we definitely, he was. I had a stepfather who was a wife beater, so the violent part, that issue is also real.
So was the confrontation with him, like, did you ever confront him in that way, the way that Johnny beat him up?
Oh no, I was, when they broke up, I was 6 years old.
Oh, okay. So y'all weren't old enough to even fight him like that.
Right. So I never had an older brother. I guess I would fantasize that that's what would happen.
Well,
Or maybe I felt like that as a little kid hiding under the bed. But I
mhm.
mean, what can you do at 6 years old?
Right. Well, shoot, look, sisters can fight too, not just brothers.
Well, my sisters fight more than me.
Are they older? Are your sisters older, or are you older than them?
No, I'm a year older than the older sister, and then I have another one that's 6 years younger than her.
Oh, so you're the oldest. So you're the big brother.
Uh-huh.
Has your mother read your books?
No, she will not.
Really?
My mother, what they used to call funny style. She will not.
But did you tell
She
her?
really wouldn't read The Meth Monster. Oh no, honey. Because she know all the things that went on, you know. And wasn't always all that flattering to her, you know, because she's the mother or whatever. And she didn't really want to know about my drug addiction and all that kind of stuff. But my grandmother was the biggest fan of that book, though. Before anybody else read it, she was running it around to other people's houses because of her Christian belief in deliverance. That excited her. Because we got a couple other people who did drugs in the family. And I was the one that came through. Because they had basically kind of given up on me. They didn't see me in 30 years. And here, every time you get a letter from me, I'm from San Quentin. You know,
so you in jail every time they hear from you.
Right.
So what about now with your mom? Do you talk to her every day, or I guess often?
Oh no, I never talk to her every day. I don't talk to my mother very much. She's got the beginners of dementia. So she struggles with her memory. I can understand. I mean, most old people, she's 80 years old. So, but no, we're not close. We haven't been close. I mean, I left home at 19 and
never went back.
She called me a couple times since then. So, but we used to, in the early years, we talk on the phone all the time. I taught her once a week kind of thing. And she came out to see me here in LA, and I've been back maybe 3 or 4 times, whatever. But no, we're not close.
Do you plan on going back home anytime soon?
Yeah, because it's COVID. I'm excited to get out and do a trip. So yeah, I'll go and see my family.
Yeah.
I really want to go to New York City too. So
are you gonna film that? I know you don't really do the whole vlogging thing when you're out in public. I remember you did that one time when the weather or something was changing with the sky where you are, but
my hand is so shaky. Yeah. I haven't figured out how to do all that yet. No.
Oh, well, figure it out before you go. That'll be such a nice thing to see you outside of your home, outside of your apartment building. Just being out there, because I know how afraid you were to travel with the whole COVID thing, and that's understandable. So,
well, I'm glad I didn't.
Well, yeah, I'm glad, especially not for what people was trying to get you to travel for, a child. It wasn't worth it. But anyway, we ain't gonna go there. Look, that's a whole nother video.
Yes, it is.
Yes, but I thank you for allowing me to read your book here at Almond Delights Reading Corner, and we will continue it next week. But it's already good. It started off being good, So I appreciate you, and I can't wait to read your next book. I can't wait to read it. And James is also writing another book too. So we'll see which one of y'all finish first. Now, don't take 3 years, Mr. Timothy.
Oh, no. This is going to be done. I'm halfway through. So I'm at 32,000 words now. And
good.
The goal is 65,000 to be an actual novel, not a novella. But this book is the biggest book I ever wrote, because this is the novel that everything else is based on. So all the other books I wrote, they're all based on this story.
Yeah, because I remember Dwayne Brown being in the Epiphany only from the beginning. But I don't
Right.
want to.
And they were discussing, he was already dead, but they were discussing that was Joey's partner.
Mm-hmm.
Been dead. Yeah. Yeah. He
So
ran into a obsessed fan who murdered his ass. I said, Lord, because I wasn't planning on writing a series, right? So I said, oh, Lord, now I done killed off the main character. But I picked it up with Joey, his partner,
mm-hmm.
But I killed off the mother, the
No,
grandmother.
don't tell us,
We'll
don't
see.
tell us, don't tell us, don't tell us, don't tell us,
We'll
don't
see.
tell us.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
tell it. But thank you so much for coming up here and joining me. And hopefully we'll be able to see you up here next week and we'll discuss the next couple of chapters.
Right. Right. I really appreciate you reading it. I enjoy hearing you read it because I
Thank
could
you.
just go and read it myself if I wanted to, but it doesn't sound the same coming from somebody else. Right.
Yeah,
I
it's
enjoy hearing
much
someone else read
different.
it. Yeah.
It's much different. So I hope I'm doing you justice.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I
You do good
appreciate
for
it.
James too. That's great. Authors need this.
Thank you. Well, if you know any other authors, let them know that I'm over here and I can put their book in rotation so I can read it after I read yours or whatever next book that I'll be reading. So
Okay. All right.
let me know.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you,
hope
Mr. Tim.
All right. Thank you guys. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Uh-oh. I done took him out before he said bye. That was the author, Mr. Timothy Blaine of Love and Gospel Music. So, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, 90s. Thank you guys for joining me. And as I go through my church announcements, please drop your chocolate and your sun emojis in the chat. So, if you guys have gotten this far in the broadcast and you have not subscribed to Almond Brown 09, why? Make sure you hit that the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can get all of my notifications when I upload or when I go live. I am back here Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Almond Delights Reading Corner, where we will continue our read. If you are an author and you would like for me to read your book, or if you guys know of an author, you can pass along my information to them. Let us know. You can also share one of my videos so that they can see what we do over here at the reading corner, and have them contact me. My email address is almondbrown09@gmail.com. If they are on Instagram, they can also DM me there. almondbrown09 on Instagram.com/almondbrown09. They can also drop down in the comment section. Make sure you guys, like I always ask y'all, when the video is over with, come back to the video. So when I hit end, y'all refresh your screen and come back and leave a comment under the video, so that lets people know how you guys like the book, what you guys liked about this chapter that we are reading, because y'all know when people come back and watch the replay, they come back and the first thing they do is go to the comment section before the chat box load up. So let the people know how y'all liking what we doing over here at the reading corner. Okay. Friday nights, we have our Friday night red light special where we will be over here talking about grown and sex and stuff. Y'all know how we do. So if you have not visited us on a Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, come back and come by and watch me and my co-hosts, Shadia and Jada LaRue. We get up there, and also all of you are my co-hosts as well, because you be down there in the chat cutting up. Y'all be cutting up in the chat, and I love it. It is a no judgment zone, honey. Judgment free zone. Everybody comes over here and you're comfortable where you are. Bring your girlfriends, bring your boyfriends, honey. Bring your sisters and your brothers, as long as they're 18 and over. Okay. We are not promoting promiscuity, but healthy and safe sex. Okay. In relationship and other stuff that we have going on. But I want to thank you guys and everybody for joining us tonight at the Almond Lights Reading Corner. Have I forgotten anything? Oh, if you are an author and you would like to send something or whatever, if you are a Almond Delight and you would like to send anything, we now have a P.O. Box. Almond Brown 09, P.O. Box 1058, Starke, STARKE, Florida 32091. You guys can send all of your gifts, your love offerings, your whatever to the P.O. Box. And it's appreciated. It's not required. It's not required, but it is appreciated. Okay, so I thank you guys for joining me here. I thank you guys for listening to the read, and also thank Mr. Timothy Blaine as well for allowing us to read his book, because he didn't have to do it, but he did. So I'm going to talk to y'all later because y'all know I will talk y'all ears off. And this has been another successful night. I love you guys with the love of God. And there is what? Nothing you can do about it. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Thank you all for joining another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. I pray that you enjoyed yourself and you're relaxing your mind, in your body, and in your spirit. Come back and join us again next week as we continue our reading. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Be blessed and enjoy your evening.